So I just actually want to start with coming full circle. I want to go back to a comment that Cheryl had made in regards to YouTube, and specifically just given the sheer sort of tonnage that platform has as far as video content, whether tier 2, tier 3. Are you guys sort of insulated from this problem? Like, have you built a platform because it wasn't necessarily built for monetization, which is one of the challenges, of it, but it was really just built for distribution and viewing?
Sure.
Are you protected? Like, are you a little safer there? No pun intended.
Yeah, I think sure. I think when you own and operate your own video platform, you have a lot more control, obviously, than you do as a network or other type of exchange or other inventory supply. But no one's immune to what's happening in the industry over the last couple of years, right? The surge of non-human traffic and non-intentional traffic, however you want to define it, is really taken the entire industry by storm, unfortunately. But this too shall pass, and the main thing to keep focused on, I think, is that we have a fantastic industry that we're all very proud of, that we've built over 15 to 20 years, and we're not going to let some bad actors bring us down. And whether that's the supplier, whether that's the publisher, the buyer, the technology platforms in between, the measurement companies, we just have to get organized, and we have to fight back, and we have to do whatever it takes to make sure we protect our brands and make sure that they are not the victims of fraud. Because unto itself, non-human traffic is not fraud, right? If no one ever pays anything for it, it's just some computer systems doing silly things, and if there are no dollars attached, then it's not it doesn't have a harmful economic impact, other than maybe some cost associated with trying to keep that out from a publisher perspective, and obviously for the buyers as well. So I think we're very optimistic that we're going to be able to fight this. But back to your specific question about YouTube. We're very confident in the ecosystem we have, and then across the rest of Google, we are extremely confident as well. So.
If you were a brand marketer responsible, and again, we're trying to confine this conversation to video right now, and this is not specific to fraud. I want you to step back and open it up. What's going to keep you up at night in regards to your video ad spend right now? Is this it?
I think from a brand marketer's perspective, you're always thinking about trying to drive the maximum impact of your marketing dollars, for whatever your objective or KPI is. I think sure you don't want to pay for things that aren't real, of course, but I would say at this point it's hopefully it's our job as the folks that work in the ecosystem, independent of the actual brands. To make sure they're not losing sleep over these issues. Yes, the independent studies are showing that there's a high percentage of non-human traffic that's surged over the last 2 years or so. But I think from an industry perspective, the bells have been rung. I think starting at the IAB conference earlier this year, I think the picture has been painted well enough that we as an industry are going to step in and make sure that brand, whether it's a CMO or brand manager, doesn't have to stay up at night and can focus again on the things that are important to their brand, which is driving awareness or purchase or whatever the KPI may be.
So if we talk about, with Ari previously, we sort of were analyzing the bearing of cost, right? So you could just, if it's a direct buy, right, you could just throw that back to the publisher as a value add. When you look at buying through automated platforms, exchanges, et cetera, then all of a sudden you're talking about an ecosystem bearing that. With Google in such a position that you guys have this kind of integrated stack between DoubleClick and DFM and AdX and everything, does that position you more to be sort of able to deploy solutions that will have a greater level of confidence?
I'd like to say yes, but I don't think anybody's in the position yet to be able to determine that.
You still think we're too early?
I think we're too early. Certainly, Google as a company is extremely technically savvy, as I'm sure everyone agrees. And we're taking the situation extremely seriously. Our position is very much to also ring the bell in the industry. This is a significant problem. It is very real. It is not a group of small independent actors. It is an organized attack on our industry. And we have to make sure that from our perspective, obviously everything that we control in the ecosystem, we have to do our job to protect our technologies, our users, the brands, the buyers, all of the different people that are involved, which is why we're spending so much money on protecting that ecosystem. But by no means do we want to get too confident and say that we will have an approach that is going to block anything, because it is an arms race.
Of course, right? I don't think there's a one-stop solution. So, obviously, given the forum, we talk mostly about video, but I would like to take a step back for a second, right? So if you just take gross numbers, the Atlantic's recent article, and I'm consciously not quoting the WSJ article because it was so alarmist. So there's an Atlantic article a couple weeks ago that said that 61.5% of web traffic is non-human. And their Ad Age has suggested that there's $6 billion that it costs the industry, that fraud costs the industry, right? So I would love for you, how's that spread out? Let's just take $6 billion, whether or not you agree with it, I don't care.
Sure.
But if we talk about economic value destruction, right? If it's $6 billion incremental cost, how's that split between display, video? Is search impacted there? How broad reaching is it, and how would you divvy that up if you had to?
It's a great question. I don't think I'm going to have a very specific answer on it, but what I can say is
generally
that we've already been down this road with search, right? And thankfully, the same type of effort yielded very, very good results, excellent results, where it's really not an issue that anybody thinks about globally anymore. That does not mean that we don't still fight it every single day and have significant cost associated with doing that work. In search, obviously, we have such a large position in the search marketplace, and so it was easier to some degree for one centralized company to be able to combat the bad action, because it was all contained within, or there was a large amount in our company. The difficulty with display and video is that it's fragmented all over the industry, and we are just one of many, many, many companies that are impacted by it. So I think, I would say right now search very low. I would say the majority of whatever number is out there is living a healthy balance between video and display. The challenge with video is that the CPMs are so much higher, right? So it's going to over-index from a cost from a opportunity cost lost or economic impact based on that inflation of CPM. But it is absolutely a problem in display as well. So.
And I think it's slightly different too. It's
sure.
Yeah. Okay. So. Where do you start? Really, where do you start?
You start by getting organized.
As an industry.
As an industry, right? I think the work that the MRC is doing, that the IAB is doing, that different open coalitions are. So
everybody has to play nice together.
Everybody has to play nice together. I think I think what is incredibly important is even if initially people are pointing fingers, eventually what'll happen is everybody will realize that. In each other's shoes or seats, it's not easy anywhere across the board. So just like in the financial industry, just like in retail, there are going to be bad actors, bad people in the world, and the best way that we can combat that is to get organized, right? As a consumer, we may join a credit monitoring service. We put alarm systems on our house. It is a little bit sad, but at the same time, it is part of life.
It's better than bars.
It's better than bars, that's right. And we have technology on our side. We have a fiercely competitive marketplace with incredibly smart people around the entire ecosystem who should absolutely continue to come to these conferences, continue to join the committees, and come up with standards that everybody agrees about, and then also understand that this is something that we're going to have to be committed to for as long as it takes. And that could be 2 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, but eventually, if we reduce the economic incentive and put enough friction into the system for those bad actors to leave, I think we can force them out.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.